The Alex Jones Show.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
New American writer Alex Newman joins us to look at the UN Victim Disarmament Worldwide Small Arms Treaty that Obama says he'll implement without congressional approval. It goes into effect as a Christmas present December 24th. Then Gerald Celente looks at Trends 2015. He's releasing the new Trends 2015 first journal this week. He'll give us the first look at his analysis and trends for 2015 in the third hour. Obviously, there's a ton of news to look at. Elijah Cummings has, quote, savaged Jonathan Gruber, the stupid Americans, architect of Obamacare, as absolutely stupid and incredibly disrespectful. Actually, he's being honest with everybody. Cummings, and you're up there after you screwed over your constituents. Black unemployment in your district's more than doubled. The national average has doubled. It's much worse. In fact, the worst in the country in Michigan, and then after that, Maryland. So you're sitting on the very tip top of the deindustrialization of black people, particularly black communities, playing stupid. Look, Emmanuel, Ezekiel, Jonathan Gruber, all of them, all these globalists are on record admitting that it's a giant screw job and laughing at their slaves. Kind of like Zuckerberg calls his users dumb effers. So we're going to be looking at that today. Speaking of Zuckerberg, Paul Watson has an article on Infowars.com. You know, Obama's meeting with the head of the internet censorship system in China that works closely with Microsoft and others to censor the web. And Zuckerberg is lauding socialism with China's internet censorship czar. Facebook CEO visits with Liu Wei is called hypocritical and absurd. But we have a graphic on the front page of Infowars.com that I think says it all, with a quote by the great journalist Gary Allen, who published None Dare Call a Conspiracy in 1972, I should add. We sell that out of print book at InfoWarsStore.com. If one understands that socialism is not a share the wealth program, but is in reality a method to consolidate and control the wealth, then the seeming paradox of super-rich men promoting socialism becomes no paradox at all. And I tell you, one of the most valuable things Kurt Nimmo does is not just the great articles he writes for PresidentPlanet.com and Infowars.com, sometimes 3-4 times a day when it strikes his fancy, but always at least once a day. He will take something from the headlines and reflect it back in an image of a man in a suit and a tie with a communist hammer and sickle lapel pin. And when you realize the CIA put Mao Zedong in, our own government helped fund and put Lenin in, funded Stalin, then it all comes into crystal stinking focus, doesn't it? Why Google and Microsoft and Facebook and the owners of Twitter and General Electric and Miller Brewing and Walmart, all the usual suspects, all the Fortune 100, lined up to an organization, to a man, funding taking our guns, funding breaking up our families, funding ending our borders, funding our Pentagon to create al-Qaeda groups. Google to back Hillary Clinton in 2016. Hillary Clinton, the Bush's daughter-in-law, or to Bush Jr.'s sister-in-law. This ruling class of insiders that are anti-free market, scapegoating our precious cornucopia, our golden goose, and blaming it. We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, as the war against the centralized crony capitalist accelerates into high gear. I don't want to be a slave, and I don't want you to be one either. And I think that you believe like I believe and want to be free. So let's come together and come in for the big win. Royal treatment. Oh, my goodness, the royalty of it. Ooh. Billionaires paid for by taxpayers as pensioners basically have their gas allotments cut off. Oh, how liberal. Prince William, Duchess Kate kick off U.S. trip with visit to White House and New York City Child Development Center. Oh, why don't they bring Jimmy Savile over with them and some of the bodies they've been digging up on the royal grounds of small children. Continuing, Kate visits New York City kids. She cares about the children. And Prince William joins Obama. You go out there, dear, and care about the children in the nursery. Oh, we have a fine cigar. And, of course, LeBron honored to play before the royals. I'll tell you what else, LeBron James, or also known as King James, tattooed on his shoulders. No narcissism there. A literal god, much like Kate and the princeling, King James. LeBron James leads the way in I Can't Breathe t-shirts as hundreds of anti-police protests mob NBA game attended by William and Kate. Oh, they must go to the bread and circus to give extra support to that, to get the rabble watching the distraction while they lovingly run the eugenics program for Grandpa Prince Philip. LeBron James and other NBA players don I Can't Breathe shirts. You know, I have mixed feelings about this. A, it's their First Amendment, so I support it. And we'll fight to the death to defend it. And B, the killing of Eric Garner looks like manslaughter to me. And if they're going to have a poster child against police brutality and murder, then he would be a lot better. Or a Kelly, who's the guy's... Yeah, Kelly Thomas out in California who begs for daddy for 15 minutes while they kill him. They would be a lot better examples to pin your movement on than Michael Brown. They've released the federal autopsy, signs of a scuffle, just as they have the medical report on the officer, and signs that, well, we're going to get into that whole report. Michael Brown's shooting. Federal autopsy shows evidence of scuffle in Brown's death. Close range shot showing that the officer was shooting him as he ran towards him. I'm sorry, folks. It looks like the cop told the truth. So I wouldn't make it the poster child to try to reform the police be Michael Brown. I would make it be cases where they shoot some innocent person in the back, or where they taser an old lady to death, or where they choke poor father of 6 Eric Garner to death. And you know who they kept arresting Garner for? Selling things on the street. Swap meets without a license. Selling cigarettes without a license. The guy would just go out an entrepreneur in the neighborhood. And so they just kept arresting. And that's what you can hear him say. Man, I'm sick of being arrested. Hold on a minute. Boom. Grab his hands. Put him in a chokehold. Tell him to put his hand behind his back when he's in a wrestler hold and can't do it. And then promptly kill him. And the cop that did it got off. Now, there is injustice in this country. There's injustice anywhere. And the globalists are trying to ride this to a political distraction away from the power grabs, away from the unemployment, doubling in the black community, away from the fact that Obamacare is a giant screw job. They want to get Gruber out of the headlines. They want to get Fast and Furious out of the headlines. They want to get Obama ruling by executive power out of the headlines. They want to get open border, executive amnesty, end of America, North American Union, treason out of the headlines. And how they do that is getting the NFL and the NBA and late-night TV shows and Democrats and Hollywood all endlessly hyping as if the only thing in the world is some of the cases of bad cops doing the wrong thing and killing people. Bully cops beating people up. Bully cops choking asthmatic teenagers. But I'm telling you, folks, they're doing that because one man's death is a tragedy. 10,000 is a statistic, as Joe Stalin said. They want to distract us with the soap opera that will never reform anything, and is a political football of police brutality because they know there's a giant anti-government sentiment out there. They want to scapegoat it at the enforcers, so the enforcers will then go into full gang mentality, accept the federalization and militarization, and come out against the American people. So they want to harden the police against the American people. That is the criminal political class that's raping us from every angle. It's a very simple equation. In fact, I should break it down on a chalkboard into some type of mathematical equation with a graphic to explain this to people. Because it's very elementary, but sometimes it's good to have visual cues. Speaking of visual cues, radio listeners can always go to prisonplanet.tv and subscribe and see the nightly news, the live feed of the